I'm excited to talk to you guys today about getting ready for the summer because this is a time of year for me that always was problematic. So I want to take your questions about what you're trying to do to get ready for the summer. I want to share some of the thoughts and ideas about what I have about getting ready for the summer. And one of the things that I want to point out is that at this time of year, what I've always noticed is that we don't like want to be outside and just we don't want to be looked at and focused on. And the question that actually made me want to even look at this was a question I got from one of my subscribers. And it was kind of asking why was I changing my diet? But it got me talking or thinking about interesting that at this time of year, we tend to think about changing our diet because at this time of year, we're usually trying to get ready bikini season, short season, summer dress season, all the different things that we want to wear. And I think that it gets us to be focused on what we're going to be eating. And then we're not really sure if what we're eating right now is going to get us, well, if we're going to be able to wear what we want to wear. So um, let's look at the question that I got first of all. It came from Visor Girl. And her question was Violet, why? My question, if keto works so well for so long, why restrict yourself so tremendously by going carnivore? And I thought this was a great question because I think it talks about something that we don't really allow ourselves to think about, which is that, well, at least when you're doing keto, you don't think about it anymore. This idea that keto is tremendously restrictive and sorry, carnivore, sorry, is tremendously restrictive. So that keto is restrictive and then tremendously, for carnivore. And I don't look at keto as restrictive, first of all, because when you do a keto diet, you can pretty much eat whatever you want to eat and do a keto diet. There's nothing actually off the table. It's more about what makes sense. And when you start doing what makes sense, well, then certain food choices stand out, first of all, when it comes to keto. So for example, I'm going to give you is if you were eating French fries beside your meat, I could probably eat maybe 6 to 10 French fries, depending on how they're cut and the size of them, etc., before I would get to my 20 grams of carb versus how much salad could I have there versus how much pasta would be a small amount too, but versus how much healthy vegetables I could have on my plate. So I feel like the lovely thing that I got from doing a keto diet was it taught me how to choose better whatever is going to be on my plate. Why I made the switch to carnivore, again, not thinking at all that it's restrictive, because I don't think it's restrictive, and I'll tell you why in a second. But why I switched to carnivore was that, number one, I was already down to 2 veg, left at 3. 3 different types of veg I was having in my diet. I was having avocados, I was having olives, and I was having salad. So going from eating those 3 things to not eating those 3 things, to me, did not seem like a big deal. It wasn't something that I was worried about giving up. So let's put it like that. But I think the most important thing that I want to point out is that I was happy eating what I was eating, right? And I don't know if you have had that experience where you're just happy eating what you're eating, but those 3 things, more than enough, and I wasn't having them every day. So the transition from keto to carnivore was kind of simple because I would say out of my 7-day week, 2 days a week I was having veg, sometimes 3. It was easy to go to full-time not having veg. The other reason that I think that most people go carnivore that I did not have, so I want to make sure I say this, I was not chasing. I'm still not chasing, right? Like my sugar addiction was already solved when I decided to do carnivore. So the reason that I actually decided to do carnivore was after reading Sally Norton's book, which is linked down below, and understanding the ridiculous amount of oxalates in some of the foods that I thought were healthy, but then combine that with also starting to read Georgia Eads' book, again, finding out all the damaging things that are not only damaging my body, but damaging my brain, because as she rightly points out, what's healthy for my body is healthy for my brain. What's toxic for my brain is toxic for my body. They are connected, and it's all part of the same system. That blood-brain barrier, yes, it's helpful, but it's not impenetrable. And so those 2 books just had me pause and question, why am I even? And it also did help that I learned that there's a tremendous amount of oxalates in avocados, the way we harvest them. Tremendous amount. When they're harvested well, there's still some, but the way that they are harvested and brought over here to North America, yeah, was no longer willing to risk I wasn't willing to risk my brain health, my body health, wasn't willing to risk it. And for that very reason, I decided to just no longer put myself in that bad situation. So I noticed there's 12 people in here, and I want you to know that I am doing questions today. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and I will be answering your questions. If you're on a cell phone, the chat is under the video. You have to swipe right where it says comments. Where it says comments, you have to swipe right to get to the chat. So would love to answer your questions today. Let me go on to talk a little bit more about like the summer ready thing, because one thing I'll tell you that I did think about when I was preparing this video is, what are all the different ways that we encounter problems when we're trying to get ready for the summer? So as summer rolls around, even before summer, I would say that the invitations to barbecues and outdoor things start happening in the spring, because people are just excited that the snow is melted, because here we get snow, and it's warm weather, and we just want to be outside. We've been tucked away in our houses over the winter. A lot of people don't enjoy winter. It blows my mind that people live where there's 6 months of the year winter and they don't enjoy it. But that is a real thing that I found out happens here. And so a lot of people will just not be outside. And then as soon as summer rolls around, we want to gather outside. So barbecues happen. Of course, there's all the sidewalk vendors that happen in the summer. So you have ice cream sales, snow cone sales, pretzel sales happening on the road, on the streets. And then we have the restaurants and their terraces. So far here in Montreal, I'm actually surprised, because usually by now, especially we've had some pretty hot days, more people would be eating outside. It's been a bit of a slower start, but we didn't get our gigantic rain yet, which only started happening this week. So I think that's probably part of it. But the terraces, right? You have people eating and drinking, right? They're having their beverages outside, these tempting beverages, and the desserts that all the people are eating. As you're walking on the street, you're going to see all these desserts and just the fun things that we are no longer eating, right? Because we thought that was fun. So do I still consider those things fun, first of all? Well, now that I'm not living the tremendous amount of pain that I was living when I was eating those things, no, I don't find these things fun anymore. But I totally get why, for people who didn't have pain, and maybe if whatever it is you're trying to solve isn't that disturbing to you yet, I can understand why those things still look fun. But even if you cross the line from overweight to obese, there's an emotional pain that goes along with that label being placed on myself. That, and I don't know, because that label was on me, and it wasn't a fun label to have. And I only noticed or learned that I had that label when I realized how much weight I had actually to lose. Right? When you do the math and see, like, this is what my weight should be, this is where I am. Right? Because we have this ability to look in the mirror and not see what everybody else sees. It's really interesting to me that we can talk to ourselves out of seeing what's real. I really want all of us to be successful this year. Like, this year, the next 10 years, the next 20 years, this is not simply about being ready for the summer, although getting ready for the summer is a good starting spot. This is about being ready for your life. In every season of your life, I want you to be able to engage. So in the summer, yes, I should be able to dress in a way that I'm going to be comfortable, first of all, because the more comfortable I am, the more activities I'm going to do. And then I want you to be able to use your body to do whatever fun things you do. I like to longboard, ride my bike, ride scooters. I'll rollerblade now and again. I'll trike now and again. I'm trying to do that more this summer. I've already gone once this year, and I really want to make sure that I go several times this year, because last year I only managed to do it twice, which I don't think is enough. But what are you able to do? What is it that you're looking to do? You can put that in the comment in the chat too. What is it that you're looking to do right now? Like, what maybe fun activities were you doing before that you're no longer doing? I have 3 tips that I want to give you, by the way, that I hope are going to help you to be in the best possible position to just do what you want to do this summer. And let's start with tip number 1. In order for any of this to work, Wellness Warrior, you need to eat on plan. That's every day. That's all the time. There are no cheat days. There aren't. There's no getting away from the fact that the food that you eat creates the body that you're going to live in. That's just the way it works. So if you think that you're going to be able to just eat whatever you want and still have the healthy body, we're not listening to what our body is actually telling us, because every single day your body reacts to whatever you eat. And some of the reactions are subtle. For example, if I choose correctly, I'll have great energy. I'll have, the ability to do what I want to do in the course of my day. And if I choose poorly, maybe the only thing I notice is that I'm dragging a little bit. I'm fatigued. I'm not doing as much as I would have wanted to do. But can I point out that at the end of the day, that matters. If I don't have the energy to do what I wanted to do, then obviously I'm going to be in a bad position for the activities that I want to do today. So some of this is about recognizing that if I'm going to do anything positive for myself, the best way for me to do that positive thing is to first and foremost understand that the food I eat is the baseline, ground level. This is what my body has to work with in order for it to do anything positive for me. And because that's what my body has to work with to do anything positive for me, then what I want is for my body to have access to the best possible energy source, the best possible building blocks so that it can do for me what I want it to do for me. And I want to take a moment to say hello, Ian. I'm glad you're able to join from Ontario. I'm looking for questions, Wellness Warrior. I'm looking for questions because I want to answer your questions today. So the more questions that come in, the more conversations and chats we get to have. So thank you for joining me, Ian. And if you have any questions, Ian, please let me know. So I think the next comment I want to jump to was Valerie's comment. What about the hormones and the antibiotics given to animals? I'm carnivore, but I'm just curious, can you talk about this? And I'm wondering about like why kids seem to be taller and bigger. So it's an interesting contradiction. I feel like that's how I'm taking what you're saying. Do I think that what I'm seeing is kids are taller and bigger? I don't know that I'm seeing taller kids. Like I feel like if you look at the family, the height of the kids is usually matching pretty good. But I haven't done, at least in my own, I haven't done any like research on that for myself. And I haven't found any research talking about that. Regarding the carnivore part of the question, though, the hormones that are in the foods, so the animals that we're eating, one thing that I was helped to understand by Dr. Chafee is that when you eat ruminant animals, they have the best ability to kind of work out, so get rid of those antibiotics because they have the four stomachs. So I think he's talking about like whatever they would have eaten. So pesticides, anything coming into the animal, apparently it has a better opportunity to work out of its system because of the way that its stomachs work and the way that it processes food. So I don't know what would happen if the antibiotics are given intravenously. Then I don't know if the animal would be able to work that out of its meat. But that was Dr. Chafee's reasoning for proposing that we do best on ruminant animals. The other option that we have is to buy our meat and fish and everything from farmed, like not farmed, so wild caught fish, or farms that are doing good practices, so feeding the animal what it's supposed to eat. Can I point out though, if I do carnivore versus if I do keto, I still have the same problem with the meats. So going carnivore, the antibiotic fed to my animal problem is still there. Vegetarians have a different problem. It's all the chemicals that we spray on the foods to stop the bugs and critters from eating them before we can harvest them. So this is a different problem, but the problem still exists. And then we have the issue of if you're doing a standard diet, you're getting the worst of all the worlds because you're eating the vegetation, you're eating the animals with antibiotics, and then we still are eating all the garbage. So the only thing we can do is buy the best quality we can afford. And I know that this opens the door to another problem, which is that people who have more money have more health. That's a reality of our world, though. And I don't think that's a reality that's going away anytime soon. People who have more money will always be in the position to have better health. They don't always have better health, though. So let me point out something that goes the other direction. One of the things that I've learned is that the more money you have, the more you tend to believe that you can buy your way out of problems, which is not at all true. We can't buy our way out of problems. So what they found is that because rich people have this ability to pay for things, they end up buying things that, for example, a good example is in Ozempic, right? How many people, because they could afford to take Ozempic, we're taking Ozempic and then living the repercussions of having taken Ozempic. And that's not just for Ozempic, right? There's lots of diabetic medications that if you're willing to pay for it, your doctor will. Some doctors will prescribe it. And the problem with that is that some of these diabetic medications function in a way that they are forcing the body to produce more insulin, which is what's causing you part of what's causing your diabetes, right? You're eating the wrong foods and your body's producing too much insulin. And then, right? And so you're eating the wrong foods, your body is producing too much insulin, you are gaining weight because insulin is a fat storage hormone. You're gaining weight. And rather than stop eating the wrong foods, you take this medication, which interestingly enough, if you're not diabetic yet, does help you to lose weight. So there's my money buying me a product that's helping me to lose weight. But is it the best thing for me? No, it's pushing me towards diabetes. So double-edged sword. Our kids, unfortunately, are getting bigger, though, in the weight sense. And that's a problem that I see across the board, Canada and US, other countries as well, the ones that have a lot of processed foods in them especially. We are growing heavier and heavier children. And it's weird because a child's job is to work out, right? They play for a living. That's the quintessential, like, working out, right? They love doing it and they do it from the moment they wake up till the moment they fall asleep. Somehow their exercise isn't working. Again, we go back to why. Well, it's because we keep feeding them things that aren't helping them to lose weight. We're feeding them things that aren't helping their bodies to be healthy. We're feeding them things that are causing them to, from a very, very young age, store energy that they wouldn't be storing typically. And so therefore, they're overweight. And so therefore, they're struggling. So I do think that if we want our children to do well, we would do best to understand that carnivore is what we all are. And whether we eat a little bit of veg or not isn't the point. We should be meat first, meat focused, meat centric. And when I say meat, I mean all kinds of meat. So I'm including poultry and fish in that. Any animal product, flesh product, we should be focused on, because that's what's going to help us to be the healthiest that we possibly can be. Hello, Tiffany, with the next question is, what food should I eat every day and food I should stay away from daily? So in this effort for us to get our health under control, what I would say is that you want to focus on the foods that feed your body best. You want to focus on the foods that fuel your body best. And the foods that I know have helped me the most, just to start there, were the foods that were the least carby. So foods that had the least amount of sugar, carbohydrates, whatever you want to call that, it's all the same. Your body reacts to this stuff the same way. So all vegetation has carbohydrates. Let's just start there. So if you're eating salad, there is actually carbohydrates in there. Might not be, and I say salad, I mean lettuces. They might not be a lot of carbohydrates, but they have carbohydrates. They also have a lot of fiber, which cause other problems. And we can go into that in a minute. But I want us to understand that when we're trying to give our body the best possible chance to be healthy, we need to give it meat, eggs, fish, poultry. Those are the basics that are going to help you every day. All right, you need to have something from those every day. And they should be making up the majority of what you're eating. Because if you're only having very little amounts, which is what we've been told to do. Women have been told. So I was told by my doctor anytime I was trying to lose weight, I was told that what I needed to do was, keep my meat portions like a fist size for the day, and then I should be eating veg. I want all of us to understand that that's a bad idea, because what my body needs to build and rebuild. So we're talking about kids, they're building, and we're talking about adults, we're rebuilding, right? Because my body will constantly get in there and take things apart and put them back together. It will be able to recuperate, so recycle some protein. So that's going to absolutely happen. But some protein will leave in other processes that happen. So your body is trying really hard to keep you healthy. The best thing that we can do to make sure it's able to keep us healthy is to make sure the food that we're eating is the building blocks and the energy source that we need to have for our body to be able to build itself properly. Okay, so the other thing I want to point out that's really important here is that the foods I'm going to stay away from are going to depend on what kind of diet you're doing and like how you feel. I know that there's a lot of people who don't think it's necessary to do carnivore. And necessary is an interesting word, because for every person's level of health that they're trying to attain, what they're going to find necessary is going to vary. I'm really working on having amazing health. Like, I don't just want good health. I don't just want adequate health. I want amazing health. At the same time, I'm not killing myself in the gym. At the same time, I'm not cooking like super fancy or super focused meals, I would say. Like focused in the sense that like trying to figure out what herbs and this and that do I think I could add to boost something happening, in a system boost happening in my body. Because very simply put, I learned from watching Dr. Ekberg that if we allow our body time between meals, it does all of that by itself. That video on fasting that Dr. Ekberg had, if you want to find a good video, look up Dr. Ekberg fasting, where he goes through what happens after 12 hours, 18 hours. Like he goes, all the way up to, I think, a week or more, maybe. I haven't watched the video in a long time, but it taught me that the food you eat, important, and then the food you don't eat, so and when you're not eating is equally important. Give your body time in between meals to do what it needs to do. So what does that mean for the average person? We typically eat 3 meals a day. So if I'm eating 3 meals a day, I might have an eating window where maybe I'm getting somewhere between 12 and 16 hours of not eating. And from what I learned from Dr. Ekberg, you need 18 hours between your meals to start the part where you're getting like amazing results. So at 12 hours, you start to get a little bit of results, but you need at least 18, if I remember correctly. Right? So at 16, you're getting a little better, but you need at least that 18 to kick on some really important processes. So if that's the case, which he had the research to back it up. So again, I love Dr. Ekberg because he's not just talking, he's telling you, this is what we found. And why that helps me is because there's a lot of people saying a lot of stuff. And I believed a lot of stuff because people said it. For example, cheat meals and, having a little, treat for yourself once in a blue moon isn't going to do anything. It did something negative, right? It had me chasing. It had me confused and not sure, why am I chasing? And even though the things, so even though the things that I was having for fun were keto versions, what they didn't know was that our brain does not know the difference between fake sweet and real sweet. And so therefore, even those cheat meals that we think aren't doing anything, they're actually doing something. So I was really happy that I learned about that cephalic response to sugar that we all have. So you're human, you have it. Those keto treats that I was letting myself have were having an impact on the foods that I was eating because it was causing me to chase. And then, so I had that keto treat that has no sugar in it, but then I turn around and I end up chasing and having, even though they're still keto treats, how many of them am I having? How many of them am I having? And so like, I'm actually doing myself a disservice by eating these things that are just putting me, I'm doing myself a disservice. So let's not do it, Wellness Warrior. It's not worth it. It's not a good idea. It's not worth it. It's not helping you in any way. The next question that I have is from Elizabeth Burns. Hello, Elizabeth. And the question is, do people who eat carnivore have coffee or tea, since those are drinks that are made from plants, coffee, and does coffee and tea spike insulin? So from what I understand, coffee and tea don't spike insulin, from what I understand. Could I possibly be wrong? I could possibly be wrong. So I don't know for sure, but unless you're taking coffee and tea with sugar in it or with a lot of milk in it, or like if you're adding things to, then yes. But from what I understand, coffee and tea don't spike insulin. Do the plants have an impact on your health? I recently learned from Sally Norton that, yep, the plants do have an impact. So drinking plants does impact oxalates. We're still able to get, and as a matter of fact, one thing that Sally helped me to understand is that when you grind things, so when you puree fruit, for example, and you puree, you're making juices and all this stuff, all you're doing is making it easier for the oxalates to get to you, and they're getting to you in a form that's not good for your health. And so I feel like what she helped me to understand was that these chopped up and like crushed and all, so I'm thinking coffee right now. I'm kind of wondering, although she said there's not a lot of oxalate to start with in coffee, so maybe that's why it's a bit safer. And I'm like, I'm taking her word for it, because when you look up coffee, it does say it's low, but like safer is still not safe. So on the side of insulin, doesn't seem to be an issue. On the side of plant toxins, well, if the oxalates are getting to me, what else is getting to me? We are boiling water and then putting these leaves in it, or grinds in it, and we're letting it soak around and release its chemicals. And yes, I do believe that those things impact us. And I do believe that if we're reacting to them, we need to take note that we're reacting to them. At the moment, I'm not reacting to coffee. And because I haven't experienced any severe oxalate dumping, my plan right now is to keep coffee in, because one other thing that Sally mentioned is that if you take all of the oxalate out of your diet and you have none, you kind of run the risk of oxalate dumping. So I haven't had a major dump. I've had a few little rashes here and there that, after speaking to her, I realized maybe that was my body pushing out a little bit of oxalate in a faster way. And so I'm taking that piece of information in, and I'm taking it seriously. So I've decided to keep my coffee consumption going. And I have between 1 and 2 coffees a day. So I'm not like a heavy, I know I've talked to some people and they're having like 5, 6 coffees a day. I don't have that many coffees. I typically have one, but I might have a second one depending on like when I have my first one. For example, days like today, where I only have, where I'm working this morning and I probably finished this stream, somewhere between 1 and 2. Um, I think, or maybe even between noon and 1, whatever. But I would have my first coffee after the stream. And so therefore, it would not be a 2 coffee day very likely for me, because then I would, get through my afternoon and then I would have supper in the evening. So because of that, I'm keeping my coffee in. And on any occasions when we have dumping, one of the things that Sally had mentioned that can be very beneficial for us. So then here we have an example of using um, plants as medicine. She was saying that we could use tea, so like triple strength tea, she said, to help our body to stop dumping, because there's a lot more oxalate in tea than there is in coffee, apparently. And so I guess the tea drinkers, that's something to keep as a consideration. Again, luckily for me, I've not had too much issue with that. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully that plays out in my favor. Hello, Mandel, and the inherited protective toxins intrinsic in the plants. Hello, Mandel, and thanks for the comment. Glad that you were able to make it here today. Hello, Camel Maldonado. I hope I said that close. Carmel Maldonado. I said that totally wrong, but I apologize. I hope I said it better the second time. Dr. Barry did a video on antibiotics in cows. Apparently, there is a withdrawal period from the time of antibiotics are administered until slaughter, where the residue leaves the cow's body. So could we make the assumption then that the same thing would happen with other animals? So for example, if my chickens or fish were given antibiotics, if they let them live a little bit before they feed them to us, would that have the same withdrawal effect? So that's a question that I don't know the answer to. It's a question that I hope somebody answers at some point. And so, hello, Judy. Glad to have you here, and glad you saw that video as well. So let's look at the next question that I did get in advance of the show from Carla Walker, which says, do we fast, or do we eat when we're hungry, just trying to eat meat? So, again, in this preparation that we're doing for the upcoming summer, like, should we be fasting like crazy to try to lose weight? And I'm going to stop right there. And that's the first part of what I'm going to say. I do not encourage you to fast for weight loss. I don't think it's a good idea. Multiple reasons, but the most important one to me is anytime that we try to force our body to do something that our body isn't trying to do, it fights us on it. And then we're in a crazy scenario with ourselves, because we are frustrated that we're super hungry, because our body's going to push us to go get food. If what it needs right now is building blocks, if what it needs right now is energy, it's going to push us to go get food. The reason I'm able to sit here in front of you after getting up at 9 o'clock this morning, and I'm still not haven't eaten, or, well, I've had a sip of water, but besides that, I haven't had anything else. The reason I'm able to do that so easily is because I didn't force my body to not eat. I allowed my body to get to the place where fasting felt normal. And because I allowed my body to get there naturally, well, first of all, I know when I'm hungry. So I know when a hunger signal is a real hunger signal versus I'm getting better at telling that, I'm thirsty. So I'm starting to be able to tell that difference. But second of all, and so I think is the most important, is that I didn't have to fight my body to do any of this stuff. So to accomplish any of the benefits and positives that I've accomplished. They happen naturally. So having said that, do we fast? Sure, I think fasting is absolutely healthy. And I think it's something that we absolutely should be doing appropriately. So it's good to fast when my body is letting me fast. So if I eat a healthy meal, I should be able to go hours before I need to eat again. If I eat an unhealthy meal, I might make 2 hours, maybe, but I'm not going to make 5 hours or 6 hours if I ate a meal that wasn't healthy. Why? Most of our unhealthy meals cause our bodies to jump into action to either save us from the excessive amounts of carbohydrates in that meal, save us from the poor quality oils that are in that meal, save us from the non-nutritive garbage that we just ate. So if my body has to do that, what it really is doing is grabbing whatever it can out of that, putting it in storage, using as much energy from that as possible to get it out of our blood, so get the extra sugar out of our blood, and passing it through the system. So it's going to make us go to the washroom. So it's going to pass it through the system as fast as it can to get it out of our body altogether. There's a reason why people who go from standard diet to keto or carnivore report having less time in the bathroom. It's because when you eat only food that your body can use appropriately, you're not in the bathroom as much. So I encourage all of you to, yes, I encourage you to fast because, as I said earlier, Dr. Eckberg has shown us that when we do fast, our body can clean up, our body can repair, our body does amazing things. And by the way, that would have been the natural rhythm of humans on the planet. Can I just point that out? We would have been eating healthy things, right? So we'd have caught some kind of animal, we'd have feasted on it, and then we would have had possibly days before we would be able to catch another animal because the animals don't want to be caught. So they're paying attention to us. They're running away from us. They're doing everything they can to not be caught and eaten, right? And since humans have a tendency to hunt in packs, even if we catch an animal or two, how many are we feeding, right? So we needed a lot of animals, and therefore we needed to be able to survive the time that we're not eating. And we also were doing the amazing thing of when we weren't eating, our body still needed to have energy and strength to go off and catch that animal, right? It needed to be able to work for us, even though we hadn't given it anything to eat recently. So if you think about it also from that perspective, right, then our body was not able to be in a position where it's going to be so fatigued. We eat garbage. We live fatigue, and we don't make the connection that we're living the fatigue because what we're eating isn't doing us any favors. It isn't helping our body to accomplish what it's trying to accomplish. It's not a good time. Can you just remind me which doctor was I talking about so that I can put it in the chat? Like, what topic was I on? Because I'm not really sure what you're talking about, Tiffany, sorry. But if anybody else in the chat knows what doctor she's at, because I did say Dr. Eckberg, which is Ekberg, Eckberg. I think I talked about him quite a bit actually today. And of course, there's all my favorites. There's Dr. Barry, Dr. Fung, Dr. Westman. I watch a lot of doctors, and I feel like they give such good information and divergent information because each of them has their own focus and what they want to talk about. Hello, B Meetsies. So they inspire me in different ways. So I have quite a few doctors that I talk about on a regular basis. So hello, Ange. I've given up the coffee. I enjoyed a keto latte type coffee for far too long. And I was chasing it more and more. Okay, so I had to stop. Now I'm on to giving up diet soda. I gave up diet soda well before I was willing to give up my coffee. I don't know if I will give up coffee at all because I like coffee, but I mean, if it causes me problems, I'll give up coffee. I think that at the moment, I still believe I have oxalates in my body that I need to regulate. And so that's part of my reason, like I said earlier. But, and I feel, although Sally said there's not a lot of oxalate in coffee, I feel like that nice little small amount that I give myself every day might be what helped me to not have all this dumping that I hear people talking about. And because dumping can be dangerous, which is the other part of this wellness warrior, dumping can actually be dangerous. That's the reason that I'm trying my best not to allow myself to go there, because if I were to have a dumping situation happen and then I were to like have a serious dumping, like for example, people talk about their kidneys hurting, people talk about like, like breathing problems. Like, this is a serious scenario that can possibly happen. And so that's the reason that I'm taking my time with this and making sure that I allow my body to release my oxalates the way that makes sense for my body with that little small amount coming in. And I've seen signs, like, for example, I don't remember like where, but the other day, like I had a little rash and I'm like, oh, okay. Like I hadn't been out, like let's say in the woods or in the grass or anything for me to say, oh, I put my hand on something. So I think it was a little bit of dumping happening. But mostly, luckily for me, that's all I've seen. I've seen little rashes here and there, which now having spoken to Sally, I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. Because I was always wondering, like, where the heck are these rashes coming from? And I wasn't sure about that. So I don't want to forget about our reason for being in this video. We're talking about the tips that I have for you to eat or to get summer ready, right? And so I want to give you tip number 2, which is if you're unsure about side effects, right? Or side dishes, sorry. If you're unsure about side dishes, just eat meat, right? Eat fish, eat poultry, eat eggs, right? You can have a meal when you get home, right? So if you're out and about with friends and they want to pop into, a restaurant and eat something, and you get in there and like, yeah, what's on the menu here is not going to work for me. There's probably meat, unless your friends are vegetarian, there's probably meat on the menu. And I would just order the meat. And if they won't sell you the thing without the meat, I would order the whatever meal has the most amount of meat and ask for a second plate. And I would take my meat off my plate and I would leave everything else. And if my friends want it, they can go for it, or I'll just go toss it in the garbage, whatever. But I wouldn't even leave that temptation on my plate, because especially if I'm new to this, because I might want to eat it. So I would ask them for a side plate, I pretend it's for bones or whatever. Can I have a side plate, please? Whatever. They're going to give you the side plate. And then I would just take my meat off. Why am I doing this all in this way? I'm setting myself up for the best possible success. If I don't set myself up for success, who's going to do it? Right? I need to do the thing that I know is going to help me stay on track every time, all the time, without fail. And if I do that for myself, I'm going to succeed. If I don't do that for myself, I run the risk of making mistakes. I run the risk of problems happening for me, because my health is the number one thing. My health is the number one thing. So I want you to be, like I said at the beginning of this video, not just summer ready for your life, ready for any possible situation, ready to win at this health challenge that you've put yourself on, right? Because we're challenging ourselves to be at our healthy weight, and we're challenging ourselves to be disease-free. to be medication free, to be full of energy, to be happy. Because I'm the happiest when I feel great. I'm the happiest when I get to do my activities. So that's step number 2, right? Whenever you are in the position where you don't know what to eat, just eat meat. I have a question from Piano Man HX3EV. What do you think of that twin study thing on Netflix? They keep saying plant-based is the way to go, but I smell BS. So I actually have a video on the channel where I go through my thoughts on that, Piano Man. But I wanted to just pop in here to say that definitely it was a very well-made piece of propaganda aimed at helping us to believe that plants are the way to go. And I go through my thoughts in the video that I have on the channel, but at every turn, what you see is a foreshadowing almost of the fact that the video series was going to end with plants being the best diet for you to do. Now, I did learn one thing in that video that I thought was helpful, that I thought was, I don't think they planned to do this, but they helped us out a little bit. In that video, I learned that, oh my God, now I'm going to forget the name of the substance, but in that video, I learned that there is a substance that we get in our body when we have dairy called morphine. And I looked it up because I was so sure they were lying, because everything else in this tragedy of what they're calling a study was a lie. So I really thought that they were lying about that too. But morphine is actually a thing, and what it is it's basically a type of morphine substance that we get from that produces in us after we have dairy products. And that was the second strike against dairy in my book. Strike number 1 was me learning that galactose is metabolized in our body similarly to alcohol. So that was strike number 1, which means it's damaging my liver, galactose. And now I'm finding out that, it's producing morphine, which might explain why we chase it. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but when you eat cheese, you just want so much. Like back when I would eat pizza, it's like you didn't just want the normal pizza, you wanted the triple cheese pizza. Like when you eat cheese, you just want more. If you're having a poutine, which is French fries, sauce, and cheese we have it a lot here in Quebec in a lot of our restaurants. You wanted triple cheese on that. Like it was always like, how can I get more cheese on everything that I'm eating? Now I'm understanding why. Dairy morphine, apparently. So that was strike number 2. And strike number 3 for me came when I found out from Georgia Eid that dairy actually, so dairy protein, so whey protein, actually interacts in a way that it helps you to have more insulin. So it causes insulin to rise. And which makes a lot of sense when you're trying to grow an animal or a baby human, right? You're trying to grow something quickly, or in the case of the cow, they're trying to grow a cow, so that whey protein. And I'm assuming that in goat milk and all these milks that there's a similar scenario happening. The milk interacts with insulin and it helps the animal that you're trying to grow to a bigger size to grow faster. Why? Like, we need to also understand, this is, again, we do things without truly thinking them through, in my opinion. When you take the milk of a cow and feed it to a human, we need to understand that the way that a cow grows is exponentially faster than the way that a baby human grows. We protect our little people. We carry them around, right? They don't have to walk by themselves like within hours after birth, and they don't need to grow big enough to fight off whatever in the woods or the forest or the whatever that's going to try to eat them. We carry our little people around and keep them safe. And yet we turn around and we feed young people, and we feed them at past babyhood, by the way, milk of another animal, not realizing that that milk of that animal is to exponentially speed up the process of growing in a way in a human that it would not be damaging to that animal, but is damaging to us. I have seen children under the age of 1, the size, like the weight, I should say, the weight of 3-4 years old kids. That's not supposed to happen. There's something that we are doing wrong, Wellness Warrior. And we need to understand that we're doing it wrong if we are ever going to be in a position to change the mistakes that we're making. Because we're making huge mistakes. Hello, Pat. Nice to see you here in the comments. How are you doing? Lynn Scott, good morning, good afternoon. Let's see, Violet, I got back from Europe late last night. Where are you located normally, Lynn? That's an interesting question. I would love to know where your home base is, I guess. Ange says, I don't think the coffee was a problem, but all the fat and stevia. Thank you for adding that, Ange. So I will pause right there and say 2 points. You said stevia and coconut milk. So coconut milk, I would double check how much sugar is in the coconut milk. There might have been, but the stevia and coconut milk combination might have tasted sweet enough to you to cause problems. So again, that cephalic response to sweet that we have. So my coffee, what I put in my coffee is heavy cream, and it's 2 tablespoons of heavy cream and butter. So I'm not adding anything that's gonna like cause me to chase in that scenario. And of course, butter is only the fat, right? So I'm not getting any appreciable amount of whey. I've learned, again, I keep learning things and I'm just like, I have to, but yeah, I keep learning things. I've learned that in certain places, they're allowed to add whey protein to butter, or sorry, whey fat. They call it whey fat to butter. So I'm in the process of trying to figure out like which ones I can get that don't have the whey fat. But there's again so much, right? Like we don't know what we don't know, and so therefore we're constantly in a scenario where we're trying to we're trying to help ourselves to not make mistakes, right? So Lynn is saying, I got plenty of comments about what I was eating, mostly comments about my cholesterol. I kept eating my meat and eggs, smiling the whole time. Okay. Those are the kind of things I think that could potentially throw us off track. I remember when I was doing my normal diets, that those kind of comments would have made me feel like I was potentially making some kind of mistake. And then those kind of comments, not even just a mistake. It's not, I shouldn't call it a mistake. I feel like I was working for nothing. It's not a mistake. I would feel like I was working for nothing because I would get comments about my healthy things that I'm eating. And it's like, oh, you're just having a salad. Like we're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't, right? If we do what standard says we should do, you're always going to have the people who, because I'm not eating a salad and Violet's eating a salad, feeling threatened that, oh, maybe I should be eating a salad. So then you end up commenting on my meal. But turn around and I'm eating a plate full of bacon at the breakfast joint because I can't, not that I can't, I won't eat the garbage that you're eating. And I didn't feel like having eggs because I had eggs for supper. So I'm eating a plate full of bacon at the breakfast place and drinking my coffee. I'm going to get the comment about my heart going to explode with all the cholesterol that I'm eating. So you are certainly right, Lynn, that we're going to get comments no matter what we're doing. We might as well do what makes us feel healthiest. And then when we live healthy for enough years, maybe we'll get the right kind of question. Maybe we'll get the right kind of comment. The third tip that I have for you, I was going to call it a hack. The third tip that I have for you is have some flippin' fun, please. Right? Live your life. Do your activities and enjoy whatever it is that you can do with your body at this point in time. Have fun, wellness warrior. Do not spend your summer worrying about what you're going to eat next, because you're going to eat something. And if you don't want to worry about it, just do what I said. Just focus on your meats. That's it. That's all. But live your life and do the things that you want to do. Have fun over the summer. If you have fun over the summer, and when I say have fun, I mean have fun away from food. Live your life. Do stuff. If your life is all surrounding food, that's part of the issue that you're living. That's part of the reason that you're struggling, because you're allowing your fun activities, your fun scenarios to always have food at the center of it, even though you're struggling to eat the way that you want to eat all the time. Right? And I feel like this is part of how they get us in this world of garbage. They have us so set to think that eating junk is the way to go. They have us so set to think that if we just follow what they're saying, we would be able to be at a good weight. We'd be able to eat fun things, and we would still somehow not be sick, even though every piece of evidence we have says that eating garbage is causing the problem. So I want us to stop allowing the tricks that they figured out, that whenever you go to a baseball game, you should be drinking a soda. The tricks that they figured out that every time it's your birthday, you should be eating some chips or some cake. Some cake. The tricks that they figured out that, you can't really watch a movie without popcorn. I want us to put these tricks down, Wellness Warrior. We need to stop allowing the foolishness that they've put in our brain to be there. Because yes, you can have a perfect birthday like I had while eating the most delicious meat that I've had in a long time. That's how I celebrated my birthday. And you can do that. And then I celebrated with some calamari the next day, because why not? You can do that. Live your life. Eat your thing. And be happy about it. So what I want to do, there's the next question that we have. So, that was the one I just did. Hey, Pat. If you haven't done so, please leave a like. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate you asking people to leave a like. So, and please do leave a like. There's 29 of us in here. It'd be cool to see 29 likes at the end of the video. The coconut milk only had 1 gram of carb for 60 mils. So not a lot of carbs, but still the sweet and fatty taste. So 1 gram of carb isn't a lot, but then it's a lot. Like when you think about the fact that if I'm only eating 20 grams of carbs per day, like 1 gram, I think is, what is that, 5%? And in my case, since I only do 10 grams, when I was eating veg, I was only doing 10 grams per day, that would have been 10%. So I feel like we do need to pay attention to these things, because yeah, only 1 gram, but then 5% of my daily intake being in one drink versus it being part of a meal. So, right? But you're totally right. I mean, it's totally doable, and it's totally a trade that you could have been willing to make. And I totally get why you would make it, except if it's making this drink taste sweet, that's gonna set me up for problems. Good day to all. Good info, Violet. Hello, Gaston Kid. Thank you for stopping by. And Emily, thank you for dropping in. Summer, sunshine, vitamin D, and sweat. Can't get enough. Yeah, we got to be ready for these summertime activities, right? We've got to getting out there in the sun. Speaking of vitamin D, so there's a lot of question mark. Vitamin D, vitamin C, like how much of these vitamins do we need? Should we be supplementing, right? Is it important to supplement? And I'm gonna throw a curveball out here in the world of carnivore, because this is something that I've been noticing, and I have to say it out loud somewhere. So I'm going to say it here in the community with the people that, I care about. Wellness Warrior. One of the major things that I took very seriously was the idea that if you're eating a healthy diet, there should be no need to supplement. And when it comes to vegan diets, the number one reason that most doctors in our space give that is not a healthy diet is that you have to supplement. You have no choice. There are things that you are not going to get. One in particular, which is not coming to my mind right now, but there's certain, like leucine and lysine, there's certain protein or amino acids, that is hard to get from plants. So you have to combine them properly. And so, but there's one particular something that you absolutely have to supplement, or you're just not going to get it. And so basically the idea being, if we have to supplement, this is not a healthy diet. It's not a complete diet. I'm concerned about the fact that a lot of now doctors in our space are saying that we need supplements. Some of them sell the supplements or have affiliates for the supplements or whatever. But I'm concerned because if carnivore and keto, oh wow, my light fell. If carnivore and keto are healthy diets and complete diets, then it would stand to reason we shouldn't have to supplement. So I'm confused by this. I'm confused why we're being told that we need supplements if keto and carnivore are healthy. Now, not every doctor is saying that. And not every doctor is saying that they're necessary. Some are, some aren't. Some are saying, well, if you want to get to this level, da, da, da. So it's a question mark for me, because in my mind, and when I think about the way that I initially noticed Dr. Berg doing it, it was, this is the food you need to eat to get to where you are. And now it's keto foods. So take that. And if you wanted to boost it, here's a supplement. Then I have doctors like Dr. Baker saying, all you need to do is eat beef and salt, and that's it. You don't even need organ meats, whatever. This is a healthy diet. There's no supplementation needed. But I'm so concerned by the growing number of doctors that seem to be saying, you need this supplement, that supplement. Like, I'm not counting salt in there. Like, every doctor is saying we need salt, but they're saying salt is a food. Right? It's something that it's part of our meal. It's like, so I'm concerned. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if Dr. Baker is absolutely right, and Dr. Chafee, I believe, also says the same thing, that all we need is meat, salt, water, and we're going to be fine. Or if the supplements are necessary. But you see where my brain, again, starts to struggle with this idea is that when you turn supplements over and start checking what's in the supplement, they're never consistent. It's not like you're turning it over and everyone has the same stuff in it, because that's what we actually need. And the same stuff in the same proportions, because that's what we actually need. So if this doctor is saying you need to supplement this, and that doctor is saying you need to supplement that, well, who's right? So these are questions that I hope get answered soon, because I do find it frustrating not knowing if the supplements are necessary. But when I see like things like, you know, with affiliate links, or see things with like, or even that they're owning part of the company or what, I think these, it's just a question mark. Like, I'm just not sure now. Can I take it for granted that this is really necessary? Or is this, and if it's not necessary, if it's a boost, I wish that they would say it that way. If this is a boost that you're doing, maybe for a week or a month or a year, but then you shouldn't need it anymore, okay, fine, but present it that way. Like, we were tearing apart the vegan diet because it needs supplementation. I don't know how we turn around now and push supplements in our community. So these are questions, Wellness Warrior, that, I don't know, that vitamin D comment just kind of brought that back to my mind. Roused about for fun. Hi, thanks for joining me. Lamb or ribeye is a fave of mine. Okay, cool. And you liked. Thank you for liking the video. I do appreciate it. And I get another one from you, roasted about for fun. Am I remembering that vitamin C is one that we need? It's like an extra. So what I understood with vitamin C initially was that we don't need as much vitamin C as was once thought if we are not taking in copious amounts of carbohydrates. So the thought was, when we stop eating carbohydrates and get ourselves down to the appropriate amount, 20 grams or carbs or less, then we wouldn't need to be taking in extra vitamin C. So again, it's one of those situations where we get information and then it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what's what. Like, who do I believe? What information makes the most sense? Where should I be paying attention? And so it's a hard one, because first of all, I want to give you the best possible information. And I still see that the fact that we need to supplement the vegan diet being held as a reason that it's not a viable diet. And I'm talking about recent videos. It's not old stuff. I've seen this as recently as a month ago, that was one of the reasons given why a vegan diet is not healthy. And then to turn around and see how many doctors are so confusion. And because of that, I want us to make good decisions based on good data. And we can only do that if we know what we're supposed to be eating, right? So, okay, so let's see. What I would love for you to do for me right now, let me know. Maybe you could do 1, 2, or 3. Which of today's points for the video do you think that you really need to work on the most? Is it eating on plan? Is it, when I do go out with friends and family, recognizing that meat, poultry, fish, eggs, they're my safe option? If I'm in a restaurant I don't know, that I would just focus my attention on that? Or is it number 3, which is prioritizing health over taste, right? Is that realizing that I should be trying to have fun through activities, socializing, hobbies, these kind of things, and that food is for fuel and building blocks. Which of these 3, if you want to pop it in the comments quickly, just to get a little feeling for, like, which one do you feel like you need to work on the most? Or maybe there's a 4th option, which is, I got this. And maybe you're summer ready, and you're not needing to work on one of these. So I'm going to give that 4th option. Are you summer ready? Do you have this all dialed in, under control, and you've got this? So let's know. Let me know. I'm super curious. I'd love to see some comments coming in right now. So you are working on number 3. Okay, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Rustava, for fun. And Wonderful says, the twin experiment made me stop eating chicken. Just to look at it makes me not feel good. Okay. Okay. Everybody's going to do what they're going to do. I think if I was going to stop eating anything, it probably would have been beef, just seeing how the poor cows were not able to have real grass to graze on. That's the part that made me sad. And again, if I'm going to give them credit for anything, they did show us how appalling the conditions that our animals are raised in. And I do advocate for our animals having a good life before they become food, right? Like that should be something. So definitely could see that being a positive thing. I don't see, come on guys. What is your score? Would you work on 1, 2, 3, or maybe you're at that number 4 and you're just absolutely on target and know what you're doing? So that's my last question for you guys. I would love to know where you are. Next week I'll be live again. I like doing these Q&As. Actually, I find that they're a lot of fun. I think it's interesting to get more questions through the video. So look forward to that. I want to start doing more Q&As. Bring your questions. Be ready for next week's session. And yeah, I'm going to open this up to the questions. Mondays, 11:20. We're going to talk again. So have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you next week.